Hello everyone, my name's Grant Beecham and today I'm going to be talking about the massive risk that landlords face in 2024. The first risk that landlords are facing right now at the start of 2024 are interest rates. I have just changed my 2-year fixed rate mortgage onto a different 2-year fixed rate mortgage, and before I was paying 1.95%. Right now, I'm paying 5.35%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a huge jump. And that was the best deal on the market. My mortgage broker got me the best deal. So if we look at this in terms of a breakdown, an average price of a house in Britain, it's it's 270, but let's call it £200,000. The average price of a house in Britain, let's say it's £200,000, and the landlord has got a 75% loan to value mortgage. So his mortgage will be £150,000. So if you're paying 1.95% or 2% on £150,000, the interest on that is £3,000 a year, which is only £250 a month. However, if we then change it to 5.35%, and by the way, that's a great rate at the moment. A lot of people, a lot of other landlords, a lot of my friends, they're paying 6% plus. So if you're paying 6% on £150,000, your interest payments are £9,000 a year, which is £750 a month. So if you have a normal house of £200,000, how much are you going to rent out for? After management fees, £1,000, it's pretty good rent after management fees. So you've got £1,000 minus £750 interest payments, you're left with £250. So you're making a small profit of £250. Right? Wrong, because you've got voids, maintenance, insurance. You're left with nothing. If you're lucky, you're left with a small profit of £50 a month, £100 a month. So that's the first risk that landlords are facing in 2024. The second big risk for landlords in 2024 is the tax system. Now, not to mention that everybody's personal allowance has been frozen at 12,570 for about 1 billion years now. But anyway, for landlords, the biggest thing that has changed over the past couple of years is the introduction of Section 24. Now, what does this mean? Well, it means that now landlords get taxed on their actual rental income and not the profit. Okay? So, like we mentioned before, if you're making £1,000 off a normal house, £1,000 rental income, not profit, rental income. And let's say your mortgage payments are £500. Well, your profit's £500. So you think you get taxed on the £500, but not anymore. You get taxed on the £1,000 rental payment, which is crazy. Legalised theft, if you ask me. So before, when we mentioned that small profit that you were making of maybe £50 or £100, it's all going to the government and more. Okay, so now you're at a massive loss. All right, so Section 24, if you're a landlord or you're expecting to be a landlord anytime soon, you need to understand that, you need to understand the game. It's a crazy rule. I can't believe it was brought in, but here it is. And you might ask yourself, why are they doing this to landlords? Well, to push them out of the market. I don't know if anybody remembers, but anybody that's been a landlord will remember the changes that they were going to bring in for the EPC ratings. 3 or 4 years ago now, they said, by 2025, every landlord has to have their property at a C rating, and that was catastrophic for landlords because some of them were at an E. It was going to cost £15,000-20,000 for them to bring their energy rating from an E to a C. So landlords panicked. Lots of small landlords went, oh, and panicked and sold. And who bought the properties? The elites. Lloyds Bank said years ago now that by 2025 they want to be the biggest private landlord in the UK. So all the small landlords sold, they got scared by the media, and then Lloyds Bank comes along and hoovered it up. These big corporations, the media, the government, they don't want us to own things. They don't want us to own stuff. That's quite obvious. They want us to own nothing and be happy about it. So if you're a landlord, what can you do about it? Well, do what they do. Okay, so if you are a small landlord, don't buy properties through your own name. Buy them through a limited company. Okay? And there's all sorts of tax advantages if you buy through a limited company. But that's for another video. But if I was you, I'd be buying through a limited company, and I wouldn't be renting to normal tenants. I'd be renting on housing associations. I'd be using Airbnb, Booking.com. I'd be getting houses and putting them on a short let stays. And I'd be swerving around all these rules that they've made for small landlords. Okay, because that's what they're doing. The third biggest risk for landlords in 2024 is tenants' rights. And this, again, is another ludicrous set of rules that have been made up by the government that, at the moment, allow tenants to basically live in a house for free, not pay rent, and they can do this for up to a year. And you as the landlord have to go through the court system, have to pay money out of your own pocket, pay for them to live in your home. You still have to keep up with the maintenance issues even though they're not paying. You've got to go through all the stress, and yet you can't remove them from your property. You've got to go through the court system that take forever, 12 months. They can leave your home in an absolute state. They can trash it. The government don't care. In fact, I know of tenants that have gone to the local authorities and said, my landlord wants to evict me because I'm not paying rent. And they have literally said to them, do not move out of the home, he can't do anything about it, stay there until the bailiffs come and then you'll have to move. And that's the council. That's the council who are supposed to be looking after everybody's best interests. And you, as a law-abiding citizen, a landlord that's paid his taxes for his house, he's paid his taxes on his rent, he's paid for his home, he's paid for everything. And yet they are saying to tenants, you don't have to pay this landlord, you can take the mickey out of him, you can stay in his home for free, and what's he going to do about it? That sends out a terrible message to landlords, and that's why a lot of landlords are getting out of the game. And then tenants and local authorities are saying, landlords are pushing the prices up too high. Yes, because there's so much risk involved. There's so many costs. You're taxing the crap out of landlords. So what can you do about this? Well, tenants have lots of rights, but if you use serviced accommodation, if you do short-term stays, then they become guests and they don't have any rights whatsoever. So if I was a landlord, I'd be using short-term lets as a way to navigate around this system. Because if a guest doesn't pay, you can kick them out. Get out. Which is what I think you should be able to do with a tenant. If they don't pay, look, if there's a serious problem and they're going through hard times, then I understand. But not paying for the sake of not paying, I think it's an absolute disgrace, and it's legalised theft, if you ask me. It's just thieving. If I walked into Tesco and bought something and didn't pay, I'd get locked up. If I went and stayed in a hotel room and I didn't get out of there, they'd throw me out. I wouldn't dream of going and staying in somebody's home for 6 or 7 months and simply not paying. It's a disgrace. But as landlords, we can't sit here and moan and complain and get down, because that's all you do all day. So you've got to find ways to navigate around these systems and around these rules and play the game to your advantage. And short-term accommodation is a fantastic way to navigate this game around and play it in your favour. The fourth biggest risk to landlords in 2024 is maintenance costs. Now, maintenance costs have gone through the roof in the past 4 or 5 years. Timber, copper, trade costs, labour costs have all pretty much doubled across the board. Some more so, some a little bit less, but they've pretty much doubled everything across the board in 5 years. So if you were to get a new boiler in 2018, it might have cost you £500, for example. If you're to get one in 2024, it costs you double, £1,000. If you're to get some new fascias, it'll cost you £500. Now it costs you £1,000. The maintenance costs are sky high in Britain in 2024. What can you do to navigate around this? Call a housing provider. If you sign a tenancy with a housing provider, they will give you a lease for 5 to 7 years and they will cover all the maintenance. And that is a great way to get some passive income in 2024. Housing providers. I'm using housing providers at the moment, got a great relationship with them, and it's a fantastic model. And the final risk that I'm going to talk about today is the stamp duty, the extra surcharge stamp duty that landlords have to pay when they buy a property. Did you know that as a landlord, if you own just one property, if you buy a second property, you have to pay an extra 3% on top of their agreed price to the government? For what, you might ask? Well, nobody seems to know. It's just because they can and they do, so they charge the landlord an extra 3% just because he bought an extra property. You know, trying to do some good for the country, trying to provide housing, we're going to tax the bonnet off of you. But hey, that's the risk that you're facing as a landlord in 2024. I've gone through some of the things that you can do to navigate around it. Okay, so again, I'll be looking at social housing, short-term lets, HMOs, okay? All of these are techniques that landlords, all of these are things that landlords can be doing to navigate this ever-changing world, okay? And don't forget, you've got to love what you do, so find that enjoyment in the journey, okay? I hope that this has been helpful today, and if it has, give it a like, hit subscribe, because I'm doing videos every week for the foreseeable future. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good day.